Hello everyone, welcome back to Tuition Tonight. In our previous video, we learned what OpenShift is, how its architecture works, and the differences between Docker, Kubernetes, and OpenShift. Today, we are going to learn one of the most important concepts in Kubernetes and OpenShift. What is the pod? If you are new to Kubernetes, you might think that Kubernetes deploy containers directly, but that's not true. Kubernetes never deploy containers by themselves. Instead, every application runs inside a pod. So what exactly is a pod? Why did Kubernetes introduce pods? Why can't it just manage containers directly? In this lesson, we will answer all of these questions with practical examples and enterprise scenario. By the end of this video, you will understand pods well enough to move on confidently to services, deployments, and the rest of the Kubernetes ecosystem. So let's get started. Moving on to the next slide. Before we understand what pod is, let's understand why Kubernetes needed pods in the first place. Let's look at the evolution of application deployment. In the beginning, applications were deployed directly on physical servers, typically one server hosted one application. This approach wasted hardware resources because a powerful server might spend most of its time idle. To improve resource utilization, virtual machines were introduced. A hypervisor allowed multiple operating systems to run on a single physical server. This was a major improvement, but every virtual machine still includes its own operating system, which increased resource usage and startup time. Next came containers. Containers share the host operating system kernel, making them lightweight, portable, and much faster to start. However, Kubernetes needed a way to manage related containers together. Some containers need to share networking, storage, and lifecycle. Managing them individually would be difficult. That's why Kubernetes introduced a pod. A pod groups one or more tightly related container and manages them as a single unit. One of the most important questions beginners ask is, what is the difference between a container and a pod? Let's make it simple. A container package a single application with everything it needs to run as a code, libraries, and runtime. A pod is a wrapper around one or more containers. Containers focus on running application. Pods focus on managing those containers inside Kubernetes. Each container normally has its own networking and storage when running alone. Inside a pod, containers share the same IP address, network namespace, and storage volumes. Container can be started or stopped individually outside Kubernetes, but within a pod, the containers share the pod's life cycle. Finally, Kubernetes does not schedule containers, it schedules pods. That's why a pod is considered the smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes. Let's move on to the next slide to discuss pod architecture. Now, let's look inside a pod. Think of a pod as a small environment that hosts one or more containers. The first important concept is shared networking. Every pod gets one IP address. All containers inside the pod shares IP. That means if container I need to communicate with container B in the same pod, it can simply use localhost because they are sharing the same network namespace. The second concept is a shared storage. A pod can mount one or more storage volumes. Every container inside the pod can access those shared volumes if required. The third concept is the shared lifecycle. Containers inside a pod are managed together. Kubernetes creates the pods, monitor it, restart it, and if necessary, and eventually removes it as a single unit. This design makes communication fast and simplifies application deployment. Let's talk about single versus multi-container pods. Most pods contain only one application container. This is the most common design and is recommended for most workloads. However, Kubernetes also support multiple container pods. Why would we need more than one container? Imagine your application generates logs, and instead of adding logging code to the application itself, you can run a separate logging container inside the same pod. This is called the sidecar pattern. The main application focuses on the business logic, while the sidecar handles supporting tasks. Common example includes a logging sidecar that forward logs, or monitoring sidecars that exposes metric to Prometheus, a proxy sidecar that manages secure communication or service mesh traffic. Because these containers share the same pods, they communicate effectively using localhost and shared volume. Let's now discuss the pod lifecycle. Every pod moves through a series of life cycle phases. When you create a pod, it first enters in pending state. Kubernetes has accepted the request but has not scheduled it yet. Next comes container creating, where Kubernetes pulls the container image mount storage volume and prepares the environment. Once everything is ready, the pod enters the running state and starts service requests. Some pods, such as batch, job, complete their work successfully and move to the succeeded state. If an application exists within an error, the pod enters the failed state. Sometimes an application repeatedly crashes. For example, imagine your Spring Boot application has an incorrect database password. Kubernetes restart the container again and again, but the application keeps failing. Eventually, you will see a status called crash loop back off. This tells Kubernetes is trying to recover the application, but the underlying issue still needs to be fixed. Let's talk about the pod networking. Networking is one of the most powerful features of Kubernetes pods. Every pod receives its own unique IP addresses. All containers inside the pod share the same network namespace. That means they communicate with each other using localhost. Now, imagine a user open a website. The request first reaches a Kubernetes service. The service forwards the request to one of the available pods. Inside that pod, the request is delivered to the appropriate application container. Another important feature is DNS discovery. Pod can communicate with other applications using a service names instead of IP addresses. Finally, services provide stable networking even if pods are recreated or their IP addresses change. Let's discuss about the real banking example. Let's bring everything together with the real banking scenario. Imagine a customer open a banking mobile application and submits a fund transfer request. The request first reaches the organization's load balancer and OpenShift route. From there, it is forwarded to the Kubernetes service. This service selects one healthy Spring Boot pod running the banking application. Inside the application, business logic is processed. If the application needs to communicate asynchronously, it sends messages to Kafka. For account validation and transaction processing, the application communicates with Temenos T24 and the database layer or any other application of banking. Once processing is complete, the response travel back through the same path to the customer. Notice that every application component runs inside its own pod. This modular design allows the platform to scale individual services, recover from failure, and update application independently. This is one of the key reasons why Kubernetes and OpenShift are so popular in enterprise environment. Now let's talk about the pod best practices. Before we finish, let's look at a few best practices. First, keep one primary responsibility per pod. This makes scaling, troubleshooting, and maintenance easier. Second, always define CPU and memory request and limit without them. One application could consume excessive resources and affect other workloads. Third, configure liveness probes so Kubernetes can automatically restart unhealthy containers. Fourth, configure readiness probe to ensure traffic is only sent to pods that are ready to serve requests. Finally, continuously monitor resource, usually using tools like Prometheus or Grafana. Following these practices will help you build reliable and production-ready Kubernetes example. Congratulations! You now understand one of the most important concepts in Kubernetes and OpenShift. Let's quick recap. A pod is the smallest deployable unit in Kubernetes. It can contain one or more containers. Containers inside a pod share networking, storage, and lifecycle. Pods move through different lifecycle phases from pending to running. And Kubernetes automatically attempts to recover failed pods. We also explore pods networking, the sidecar pattern, and how pods are used in a real enterprise banking environment. Before we end, here's a quick quiz. Why does Kubernetes use pods instead of running containers directly? Can a pod contain multiple containers? What does crash loop backoff indicates? Pause the video and see if you can answer these questions yourself. If you find this lesson helpful, please like the video, subscribe to Tuition Tonight, and share it with anyone learning Kubernetes or OpenShift in. Our next video, we will learn about Kubernetes services, how they provide stable networking, and expose pods to application and users. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next lesson.